everyone. Welcome to another episode of the MultiDimensional MD. I'm Dr. Arlene Dijamco, and I'm an integrative physician, a pediatrician, and a cranial osteopath. And my mission is to help bring the intuitive spirit back to medicine in a practical way. So today I wanted to talk about letting your scream out, because what I'm noticing is that, especially in the last year and a half with the pandemic, that people are feeling really restless. And when that restlessness is contained and over a long period of time, or even a really intense over a short period of time, it's like you've taken a soda bottle and shaken it up, and then it's ready to explode, especially when it's combined with other intense emotions like frustration and anger. So what I'd like to help you do is to release those pent-up emotions in safe ways, to let your scream out, because it's better out than in, and also to do it in a way that doesn't destroy the world around you, doesn't create stress in the world around you, and helps you feel better. So here are some safe ways to do it. I'm going to go through 7 different ways. And the first is to literally scream. And to do this, I mean, you may start to laugh and think it's kind of stereotypical, but this is kind of an old therapy. And it started with a psychologist, Arthur Januf, in 1970. And he wrote a book called The Primal Scream and created this therapy called primal therapy. But you know that, I mean, screaming, feeling the need to scream, it's like there's this tantrum in you. And a little kid would just freely express that. But as adults, we try to contain it, and for good reason, right? Because we don't want to scare people around us, and we want to be able to function in the world in a healthy way. So even if we feel really mad, if we just go around as a bundle of anger and screaming energy, attacking people around us and yelling at your family, well, that's not really very healthy. It's not a feel-good way to be too. So you could actually just scream into a pillow. Or if you are near the ocean and can get out on the boardwalk with no one around, or out in a boat, and just scream into the wind and scream into that nature that is even louder than you and can freely absorb your expression, your emotion, without getting hurt. And it's like, you know, if you could do that and just express it from, and they call it primal because it's kind of instinctive. Everyone knows without learning about it. Like if you hear an animal scream, or if you hear the sound of another person, you know if they're in pain or not. You know if they're hurting. Of course, if a kid's having a tantrum, you know that there is something that is just so intense and unbearable that they can't keep it together, and they just need to get it out. But just like a kid that goes through a tantrum, when they do freely get it out, then on the other side of that, they can bounce back and recover relatively quickly, versus walking around like, as adults, your older kids do, and keeping it really pent up. So, and there is another website I found, and I saw this on NPR.com, which is really interesting because it is called lookslikeyouneediceland.com. I'll put it out there. Lookslikeyouneediceland.com, which is a lighthearted way. I don't know if they developed this during the pandemic or not, but it is a lighthearted way to also acknowledge what people are going through, what they're feeling, and they will have you record your scream and then send it to this website, and then it will play out into the Icelandic wilderness. So that's pretty, I mean, it's humorous, but at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, how cathartic. So if you are up for something like that, they even give instructions of how to record your scream, which is great. And it's like how to stand and how to like let that scream come out from deep inside of you, from your belly, and then out, express into the world in a safe way. And just like I mentioned before, like screaming into the ocean, that Icelandic wilderness, it is big enough to contain you. It is big enough to be this nest for your scream. And you know, you're not going to hurt people around you. You're not going to stress out your loved ones, and you get to feel seen and heard. And by your recording, that is broadcast out into the Icelandic wilderness. Now, that's really great. Let me post that again for anyone that missed it. LooksLikeYouNeedIceland.com. So again, when I'm talking about literally screaming, whether it's out into the remote wilderness, whether it is into a pillow, and if you want to get technical about it, then a memory foam pillow, which has more density to it, is supposed to absorb sound better. So, but really, honestly, any kind of cushy thing will work, and that can really feel good. Better out the end, because if you keep it into the body's, the tissues of the body, then it can feel like it can have physical effects. Like, so it can affect your physiology. It can make you more prone to illness. Okay, so the second way to safely let it out is to move your body, to exercise in a way, whether it's going for a brisk walk, going for a run, doing yoga, or going to a boxing class if you really feel like you need to hit something or punch something out in a way that's, again, safe, and that you can just really just be able to express yourself in a safe way. Combining that physical movement with your breathing can really be helpful. And when you do this in a conscious way, so you are conscious of your breathing, you're conscious of your movement, and you're aware of your emotional feelings too, then that is such a great trifecta there, because you're so aware of your being, your body, your breath, your spirit, your emotion. And so these next ones I'm going to go through more quickly, but that takes us to number 3, mindfulness. So mindfulness is a non-judgmental awareness. And so when you combine that movement with mindfulness, this non-judgmental awareness, this curiosity about yourself, that is so loving that you are willing to go there, you're willing to look at it, and willing to give it an outlet in some way. That is known to be so healing for mind, body, and spirit. And it can really help to process those stuck emotions. And you know, maybe you're not sure exactly how you feel, and that's okay. So I tell people, just start from where you are. Maybe you're feeling like, I don't even know how I feel. Well, start with that. Start with, I don't know how I feel, and just lovingly, in a neutral way, be present with that. And your presence creates this okayness around your feeling. And then what you'll notice is that under that surface of maybe, I don't know, I don't understand, then it starts to free up some, and then maybe you get to another emotion. And there could be layers of it. So there can be layers to your scream that is inside your body and just wants to like get busting out. But that's okay. So just take it step by step and start with where you are. You may be surprised about what bubbles up, and that's okay. It doesn't have to make sense, because again, this has been built up over time. So it may have started as a pattern from childhood that you weren't aware of. It's in your subconscious, and maybe over the pandemic, it has been triggered again and raised in its intensity. So now you can no longer ignore it. And that's actually a really great thing for me, because if you can't ignore it, then there's this huge opportunity for healing. So don't be afraid when things get triggered, when when you feel like you have this pent-up emotion, don't be afraid. And even if you are, it's like, don't be afraid of being afraid, right? So that's starting where you are. Neutral awareness, non-judgmental curiosity. So, and then coming up are some other exercises I've recommended to patients, which is really neat. Number 4 is Scribble. I had I recommended this to adults and kids, but when I first came up with it, it was with this boy who was about 9 or 10 and going through some illness, and so had a good reason to be angry, good reason to have this pent-up emotion, but he wanted to throw things and break things and break like things maybe you don't want to be broken, like digital stuff or iPads. And, so again, this is about coming up with safe ways to be able to express what's already there. So I told the mom and this boy to get a box of crayons, cheap crayons, old crayons, crayons that are already broken, and just do some scribble art. You take the crayon and you scribble it so hard on the page that that crayon literally breaks. So this is permission to break something. And depending on your personality, it may be hard for you to do that. So it's giving yourself permission to let it out in a way, to do something that you haven't done before, to do something that maybe in your mind it's like, no, I can't do that. That would be wrong. But to do it in a safe way. Better to break a crayon than a computer, right? So come up with, when things happen that are just out of control, then I want to give you ideas of how you can come up with your own too. You can use ideas I give you, but you can also come up with your own. So if you don't want to do scribble art, maybe it's another kind of art. I went to hammer therapy. We literally did some blacksmithing and hammered things and fired things. And that was an amazing experience. Or maybe you want to do like splatter art, whatever. You can do that in your garage or outside. Again, about creating a safe place, time and space for you to do it, where you're not destroying more things and creating more stress in your life, and you're not attacking your loved ones around you, because that's not a feel-good way to be. Number 5, and this is just a neat thing that I had made up, is rip up the recycling. You feel like ripping things up, you feel like destroying things, you feel like throwing things, well then why not do it for the recycling? Those boxes need to be torn down anyway to get into the bin. So go for it. Just just use your hands and like rip it up. And that way you'll use your you do it in a mindful way. You do it physically, so movement. You'll do it with your awareness, that conscious mindfulness in a neutral, loving way, and keep breathing while you're doing it. And if you want to throw it back into the recycling bin, because that would be a cool thing to do. And the funny thing is that maybe you're actually doing something productive, even though you feel like destroying things, and you are actually destroying things by ripping up that cardboard, ripping up the paper. But then you can also just throw it back in the bin, maybe put the bin far out so that you can really throw it. And in this way, it's a safe, fun way. And if after a while it starts to feel like a game, well, that's the point. It's like to come up with ways that are fun and not destroying your room around you, not attacking people, and you can still release that pent-up emotion that really almost everybody I have seen recently, especially in the last half year after that whole year of pandemic, and then it keeps going, people were just really felt like, I can't take it anymore. But on the outside, they may look like really great and warm and loving and nothing going on. And on the inside, they were like, and that's what I felt like through the osteopathic treatment. So there, it's a spectrum, right? So it might feel like just a little bit of restlessness to like bubbling to ready to explode. And then depending on the personality, some people are containing it more than others, but I would say the more contained it feels, it's. So number 6 is to write it out. So if this sort of suits you, then just take a journal, take a paper, and stream of consciousness, just blah. get it out onto the paper. Whatever the surface is, then just start, it doesn't have to make sense. That's part of the stream of consciousness. It doesn't have to make sense. I just saw your comment, Brooke. I need to scream today. Yes. So go back if you haven't seen the other things, and go back and see those other ideas too. So again, when you start writing, it doesn't have to make sense. It's just whatever's the top of your head. Maybe it's not even full sentences. Maybe it's just phrases or words, or you just writing it big with intensity or bold, and almost like the scribble art. You just getting it out. Or if you feel like the need, if there's, you could write a letter. Maybe you could write a letter to the pandemic, or write a letter, it doesn't have to even be to a person. It can be just about a thing or a situation. Write a letter, write it out exactly how you feel. You don't ever have to read it again. I don't, even think it's useful to necessarily read it again. Put it in the shredder, rip it up, so you don't even have to be stressed about, oh, somebody else is going to read this. So it's permission to get that primal scream out. Better out than in. And of course, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, then you can always get help. And there are so many ways to get help. For me, I teach tension and trauma release exercises. I'm also a cranial osteopath, so I can feel the emotion in the body, and I can help people be more consciously aware of it if they want to work with that. But there are other things too, like somatic therapy, EMDR, EFT. And so there are a lot of practitioners out there where this is what they do, this is what they specialize in, and different things can just feel good at certain points. Sometimes people want to be able to talk more, or just use that mindfulness or mindset. If so, then something like emotional freedom technique, EFT, could be helpful, where you can say things and then literally tap on certain acupressure points, and it helps to neutralize it. Somatic therapy, or TRE, which is attention release exercises, these can be helpful. Maybe you're not so aware or not so conscious of why you feel like screaming. It's just like so many different things that you can't, it's too overwhelming to come up with words for it. So if that's the case, that's totally okay. Just go to the body. There's so many ways to go to the body. Again, the TRE, somatic therapy, osteopathy, and there's other ways too. And the point of this podcast is not to go in detail through each of those specific professional ways to get help, but to give you ideas, and so that you don't feel that you're at a loss or it's hopeless, and you can address things. And as these triggers come up, then you can address them in a safe way. And anytime I feel triggered, I feel like maybe what we think of as like more negative emotions come up, then when I can settle myself down, and this is why I practice like mindfulness and meditation every single day, is to breathe into that and look at it and see, give myself an opportunity of like, why is this coming up now? Maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't, but to have a curiosity about yourself, your being, because your inner being cannot be destroyed. It cannot be really that light, it cannot be destroyed, but we have to go through this human experience. So we're going to go through a spectrum of emotions, and that's totally okay. And your experience is in a way helping you see what needs to be addressed at the moment. And so that's part of where it's like, how can I look at this from a different perspective? How can I look at this from a wider perspective? How can I make a best of it anyway, even though there's a lot going on, and have the gentleness with yourself that even if you feel like you stumbled and maybe you didn't make the best decision for that moment, you have a fresh new moment. So that's the part of being mindful and present, that each moment is a fresh new moment. And thank you, Brooke, for your comments there. Yeah, the TRE is absolutely amazing. I'm going to have another class coming up soon, maybe a week from Sunday. So I'm going to send, if anyone wants to be on that list, then you can go to my website, allworldshealth.com, sign up for the the mailing list, and we'll let you know. You can also follow me on Instagram at All Worlds Health. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Let me know where you're watching from. I always love to hear from you. If you have any ideas of things that have worked for you, of things you'd like to hear more from, then I would love to talk it out with you. So thank you so much for joining me here today. Lots of love to you, and I will see you next week, 11 a.m. EST, on another episode of the Multidimensional MD. Bye. Have a great week.